Welcome into Factfinder Investigates. I'm Dylan Domingue. Our investigation continues into the mid-air collision involving Flight 5342. A CBS News analysis revealed red flags about collision dangers in the airspace around Washington's Reagan Airport. For a year leading up to January's deadly crash, there were close encounters between helicopters and airplanes nearly every day. For some reason, controllers didn't notice when choppers routinely flew too high, coming within just a few hundred feet of airliners. In the area where the collision occurred, helicopters were limited to a maximum altitude of 200 feet. But last year, 1 in every 10 exceeded that limit while flying directly in front of the runway Flight 5342 was about to land on.
And maybe this did become the norm, that helicopters and airplanes were routinely operating closely together. So therefore, it just looked like noise in the data, that people really were not taking it as a serious risk. And as we now know, the risk was unacceptable.
The FAA says it's developing new AI tools that it hopes will spot patterns like the ones missed over Washington. And this week I sat down with Gwen Duggins, who is the mother of Kia Duggins, one of the 67 people killed in that mid-air collision over the Potomac River. During our 40-minute interview, you could feel the emotion as she believes her daughter would still be alive today if flight risk were not ignored for years. 2 weeks ago, Gwen took a similar flight that her daughter did on January 29th to attend the NTSB investigative hearing. She wanted to hear accountability, but instead, she says the FAA and the Army gave her even more reason to worry. I know that final report should come out between 12 to 18 months, but this story for you does not end at 12 to 18 months. Like when that final report comes out, it may verify some of the things that we heard last week in the NTSB hearing, but that doesn't repair. What is the next step?
When you're grieving, it's very difficult to think of anything else. And I was grieving and trying to heal at the same time. But being at those hearings and hearing the evidence and realizing that this was completely preventable woke up the mama bear in me to say, my daughter did not have to die. She died because people did not do what they were supposed to do.
What was the switch that was different from the 6 months prior?
I wanted them to see my face. I wanted them to understand that you're saying 67 people died, and that sounds so random. It's very impersonal to say 67 people perished. But when you have to look at the faces of the family members who have lost loved ones, you know, it was my hope that it would move them to be honest and transparent.
Is it also that it was not just one thing? Because this was a series of errors that were made over a long period of time, not just that night.
Like, to me, there's a difference between making a mistake and choosing to do the wrong thing. That's what I saw at the NTSB hearings. Oh yeah, we know the altimeters didn't work. Oh yeah, we know that they were flying higher than they should have been. Oh yeah, we know there should have been more people in the FAA. Oh yeah, we know that there's been 15,214 near misses in the last 3 years. Yeah, we know all of that. It's much easier to forgive a mistake than it is to forgive a deliberate choice. And I feel like these have been deliberate choices that have been made.
No amount of time will ever stop the grieving process with it, but you, along with many other families, have been advocates for safety and pushing for more to be done, pushing for more transparency, pushing for more accountability. But how do you balance that?
Because for me, it's about my daughter's legacy. My daughter was an amazing human being, and the world no longer gets to experience her light and what a light she was.
At the time Kia was just 30 years old at the time of that crash. We'll air our full sit-down interview Monday night with Gwen Duggins at 9:30 p.m. over on the KSCW. You can also find it online right now over on our 12 News Connected app. We're continuing to follow the KBI investigation into a Dodge City Community College student athlete who was found passed out in a field following a practice last week. That athlete is Delia Montez, a recent graduate of Dodge City High School. Her family confirming she suffered heat stroke during the August 7th practice and that she is still in critical condition at a Wichita hospital. We now know that practice started at 1:30 p.m. on August 7th. Montez was found unconscious 4 hours later in a field at 5:30 that evening. The Kansas Jayhawk Community College Conference does have guidelines for practicing in the heat that all member programs are supposed to follow. Athletic staffs are supposed to keep track of the heat using a wet bulb globe thermometer. So if you're unfamiliar with that, it's a thermometer used by high schools and colleges nationwide to measure air temperature, relative humidity, wind speed, sun angle, and cloud cover, all to see if it's safe for athletes to practice outside. According to conference guidelines, no outdoor practice of any kind is supposed to take place if there is a wet bulb temperature reading at or above 90 degrees. In their statement, the conference says the practice was well within the guidelines of this policy. We do know that the high on August 7th was 102 degrees with a heat index of 105. But the conference commissioner says their guidelines in place should have prevented an incident like this from happening. Sophia Jernander has more.
August 7th, Delia Montes was found passed out in a field after cross-country practice on a day when the heat index read 105. She remains in critical condition at a Wichita hospital.
She's, our little cousin. She's such a bright girl.
Dodge City Community College is part of the Kansas Jayhawks Community College Conference, and they say there are policies put in place to prevent injuries like these, using a wet bulb system to determine how safe it is to be outside.
A more comprehensive look at this of what the heat stress actually is on a given day. It's an interesting one. I live in Colby, that the altitude's a little higher, our humidity's less. So there's days that it may be 100 here, but our wet bulb globe temperature's in the 70s.
The conference says this system doesn't just take into account temperature, but multiple other factors.
It takes into consideration cloud cover. So it's maybe a more accurate descriptor of what the heat stress that people are under when you're outdoors.
They say that they don't know why this happened because they believe Dodge City Community College was operating according to this system.
All of our schools are expected to follow the policy, and I have no reason to believe that all of our schools are not.
But the conference also stresses the importance of keeping their student athletes safe in hot weather.
To put this in place, using that to protect our student athletes, to look out for them as best we can, and because the safety of our student athletes is really the most important thing at the end of the day.
In Dodge City, Sophia Jernander, 12 News.
And Montez's family does have a GoFundMe set up. You can find the link over on our website, kwch.com. So to come, some nursing homes across the country suing family and friends of residents who stay there, trying to get money for unpaid bills.